Hi everyone. Thank you for having for your interest in this video. Today I want to talk about the question about whether we are alone in the universe or not. Um, the question is currently a matter of belief. We don't know whether we are alone in the universe or not. We don't know too many We don't know yet too many fundamental things. One is, how does life actually happen, and second, does actually life exist in our solar system? Not on Earth, but in our solar system. That does not mean that there are humans walking around on Jupiter. I mean, we cannot be sure, but it's very unlikely. But there are, for example, there are other moons in our solar system, like, for example, the Saturn moon Enceladus. That is actually one big ice moon. But a probe, I think it was the probe Cassini, who was driving by, realized that there were actually hot water fountains shooting up from that moon into the space. So that doesn't mean that an intelligent life is trying to get attention through water fountains, but it might be that where there's water and where there's heat, that there's a high probability there might be some microbes on that moon. This is it's 2019. We currently don't know yet, but this is a question that will need to be answered quite soon, as we will send probes to that moon. It's not the only probable moon that might contain bacterial life, but it's one of some probable moons. The second question is also, like, are we looking for intelligent life or for life at all? For life at all, we don't know whether it happens in our own solar system or not. Intelligent life outside of Earth in this solar system is probably very unlikely. So how can we actually find an answer to this question about whether we are alone or not, especially regarding intelligent life? And there is an equation from a so-called Mr. Drake. It's called the so-called Drake equation. It's not from the artist. It's an equation that has been made in the 1960s. And this equation basically tries to calculate the possible number of civilizations in our galaxy is basically just one big multiplication. The multiplication with many factors, and factors such as how many stars are in our galaxy, then how many of those stars actually have planets, how many of those planets actually can potentially support life, then how many of those planets actually will develop life at some point, then also the amount of planets that where the life actually will become intelligent, because when we know on Earth, life has been for, I think, billions of years. Is it billions? I think it was billions of years. Life has been bacterial, and at some point there were the first cancers, and it took all a very long time. It took a very, very long time until actually some multicellular life and then intelligent life actually happened on this planet. So yeah, the life needs to be intelligent, and then it needs to develop also the technology in order to send signals in space that are strong enough to be detectable. And then you need to, all together, if you have all multiplied together, you need to multiply it also with the time the light actually takes to travel through the universe, meaning the signals that are traveling through, not the universe, the galaxy. So you need to multiply all of this with the time that a signal takes to travel from A to B. And while light is actually quite fast regarding our measurement on the Earth, light in our galaxy is actually relatively slow. It takes years just to come from Earth to the next planet. So I think there are some scientists who would currently rise up the theory that we are really alone in the universe, and I personally consider this as unlikely. I don't know I don't know. I can't exclude it. It's though the question is just that while we are here on Earth and are actually developing rapidly fast, it is a just question to ask. Okay, we are looking now into space, and we have to ask the question, where is everybody? Like, if a civilization from intelligent life is able to skyrocket in the development as humanity does, what happens? Why are we not seeing why are we not hearing signals? Why don't we see? Why don't we see anything? What is going on? We should actually, if there is a lot going on in space, we should be very. There should be something. We should have received something by now, which we don't, which we simply don't. So for me, we have the following possible scenarios. I think the first scenario is indeed that we are alone, which I think is possible, but I think is very unlikely. The second is we are not alone, but we simply haven't been discovered yet. And that is quite likely because our sun is relatively small, and it is relatively small. It is also relatively cool. So the probability to be seen from somewhere far is possible, but it's not so likely. There are much bigger and much hotter sun in the universe than ours. So I think we might simply have not been discovered yet. Or another possibility, which I think is unlikely, but I think it's not absolutely impossible, is that maybe somebody is already watching us. And humanity, from our current approach, and I'm not talking of gods. And also, when I'm saying somebody's watching us, that is very close to paranoia. And I know that it sounds paranoid, and it's also, I'm not saying it's very likely. I'm not saying it's very likely, but I think it is a scenario that if somebody is watching, has found Earth. I mean, they would probably, if humanity would find life on another planet, humanity would probably try to not interfere in the development of this life, but just to study it and get as much information as possible without being seen, without being noticed. So that being said, it might be that maybe at some point an alien civilization with better cloaking technology is just somewhere in our solar system, a probe where they are watching us, where they don't watch me probably going outside, but where they can just see, okay, are there major structures rising from this planet? Or is there actually any structure on the moon or something like that? Or even more, much more blunt, they could, let's assume that Alpha Centauri, our neighbor star, is uninhabited, like the planets around are uninhabited. They might, for example, put a cloaked probe on one of the habitable planets on Alpha Centauri, and just see whether we get there and when we get there. And maybe if they don't even watch us closely, they might be like, okay, we detect movement on Alpha Centauri, we see something has moved on Alpha Centauri, and it seems to have some kind of primitive spacesuit. Humans have finally made it to Alpha Centauri, or the civilization of their planet has made it to Alpha Centauri. So this might be maybe for them even just a first motivation to actually get in contact with us. Because, I mean, what else could they do with us? Well, they would interfere in our development, which is not very advisable. And there's not much we can offer them at this point. So I think we might become relevant for this civilization when we actually manage to get to other stars, which is not the case now, which is not the case tomorrow. Another scenario is why we don't see somebody is because there is a probability that a civilization that has established in space has built megastructures around their stars. Because a high civilization will need as much energy as possible. So it doesn't need to be that they build megastructures around their stars, but it is probable because this is how you get the most energy from it. So when we look in and we see a spot, there is, in all the spots where we see nothing, that it might actually be that there is a sun that has been cloaked, or not cloaked, but has been surrounded already by megastructures, and somebody's already using that energy. So I think to summarize the question, whether we are alone or not, I don't know. This is the answer, I don't know. Second, I think it's very unlikely. And third, it's probably, as I said, many scientists simply, not many scientists, but especially many people who talk about it, simply underestimate the huge distance and the huge limitations we have in travel speed. So I think that is something that is, while we currently have rapid developments in gene technology and in artificial intelligence, and so many things that will rapidly change the way we live on this planet. The probability that travel through space is, I think, another thing. It's another topic, another difficulty, another much more complicated thing than gene technology and so on. I'm not saying that one or the other is an easier science, but I think there will be many developments here on this planet before we will be able to do this huge step of actually traveling to space. I mean, we're already doing it inside our solar system, and yes, in the next few years we'll probably send some probes in direction of Alpha Centauri. But I mean, even these probes, they will be traveling for years. They will arrive at some point, or it's not even sure whether they arrive, and then they will send signals back, which will take a long time until they actually arrive on the planet, back on the planet Earth. So this all takes much time, and I don't see us. I see a lot of things. I could imagine a lot of things happening here on the planet Earth, but I don't see humanity getting in contact with alien life that is intelligent anytime soon. I don't think so. Because also, like, for example, imagine now that scenario that I really like, whether I don't know how likely it is. The fact that they might study us means also they will probably want to see how we deal with this topic of climate change. They will be like, okay, humanity enters now a stage where they become planet conscious, where they actually need to take responsibility of their planet, and actually, which is probably quite a maturing process for every civilization, to just see, okay, can we live without actually completely ruining this planet or exterminating ourselves by this planet? So there is probably, if this scenario happens with aliens watching us, there is probably quite an entertaining popcorn cinema to know for them, okay, will they actually make it or will they not make it? Oh no, they're not making it. They're roasting the entire planet. Hallelujah. Well, too bad. There might be other civilizations doing better. So I think this is just seeing this stage of development and dealing with our own planet is a very important stage where I personally would say, if I would be an advanced civilization, I would not interfere in that process. In this very important process that is, I think, brings a lot of important and valuable experience for humanity. Again, to summarize, I don't know whether we are alone. I think it's unlikely, and I'm not sure how fast we get in contact soon. But of course, I hope. I'm very curious, and this video is now from 2019. Maybe I will watch this video in 2 years, and maybe in 2 or 3 years we have completely different results, because we know whether there is life or not on one of the moons of Saturn, whether we have received a signal, or whether our probe that we shot in space with this metal plate on it has actually been received by someone. So we don't know, and it's it is all okay. Forget about it. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you very much for looking by, and let me know what you think. Let me know whether I've made some major flaw in my predictions or my ideas. Let me know what you think. Are we alone? Are we not alone? Where is everybody? Have a good one. Thank you again for your interest in this video. Bye.